right, welcome into the garage area. We're here after Martinsville, and this is our Martinsville recap show where we are going to talk about everything that happened in Virginia between the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series races and set up the Championship 4 race for Phoenix in all three series. Let's go ahead and start with the Trucks. There wasn't, I didn't get to actually watch the race itself. I saw that Christian Eckes was able to win the race with some questionable passing methods. He put the bumper to Taylor Gray?
Yeah.
Okay, I get the Grays mixed up. And also to Ben Rhodes, kind of doored him up off the corner as well, it looked like, and was able to maintain the lead in that position. And Eckes was able to go on to win the race. Taylor Gray confronted him in victory lane afterwards, and a little bit of fallout after that. But that sets up the Final Four with Grant Enfinger, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, and Corey Heim going to Phoenix. Did you get a chance to watch the truck race?
I had it on and watched it. I know just about what happened, but for the most part, Christian Eckes dominated the race. They had some tire strategies what really gave Taylor Gray the advantage over Eckes there at the end. As far as I could see, Eckes passed him fairly cleanly on that outside restart. The pass or try to pass before, he did get Eckes a little bit bumped off the corner, but not as egregious as what Eckes did back to him.
Typical Martinsville racing.
Yeah. So, what Eckes did was kind of controversial. It seemed a little egregious. He just boom, boom. It's almost like you do playing a video game. It's like, you're not passing me, you door him into the wall or something like that. I mean,
we've been there before.
Yeah, to me that seems a little egregious. I mean, I listened to Hamlin's podcast, and who would you rather want in the playoffs, Taylor Gray or Ty Majeski? And I think if Taylor Gray wins that race, it knocks Ty Majeski out of the playoffs. So maybe he could have thought a little smarter about that decision too. So
I don't understand the point of it though. It's saying that Ty Majeski has a better opportunity to win the championship?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. I guess that would be fair. Was Eckes in before he won, or did he have to win his way in?
He didn't have to win. He was in already, so yeah.
Yeah, that does seem a little counterintuitive that way.
I mean, he wasn't locked in, but he had plenty of points.
Right.
Yeah.
If he finished second, he was going to make it just fine. Yeah. Yeah, that does seem a little bit over-aggressive there to win that race in a situation where it wasn't a winner, go-home situation. If it was a situation where he needed to win the race in order to advance, I think this is a little more excused, unfortunately. Yeah. As a fan of racing, I don't like that it comes down to that. But I guess I could be a little more comfortable with it. But the fact that he didn't need to win the race to move on to the championship race, and he made that aggressive of a move, I guess I would take a little bit of an issue with that then. I gotta respect Taylor Gray and his desire to race cleanly. Appreciate that. And I mean, Martinsville, if you get into somebody that's not even remotely outside the box, but to send somebody 3 lanes up the racetrack is that's a little bit on the outside of what you would call the boundaries. But yeah, would you expect to see Taylor Gray take any form of retaliation against Eckes at Phoenix?
Probably not to a degree that would have NASCAR suspending him or something, but he is definitely going to get raced harder and raced different.
You don't think he's going to Matt Kens with him?
Not to that extent. I could see him maybe slowing down in front of him, making it real hard to pass or anything else.
Chase Elliott instead.
Yeah, something like that I could see, but yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about one driver confronting another one in victory lane? Think that's fair or foul?
I don't know. Was it actual victory lane?
It's a front stretch victory lane in Martinsville.
I guess they were. Yeah, now that I remember, I mean that was where he was at. I mean, I think the best time to talk to somebody right after the incident, I guess. So if he got angry, he's got to get his words in, I guess. So, they weren't actually set up on the truck victory lane they were put out. So I would say that wasn't out of character or out of foul or anything.
I guess I just don't understand why it's always felt like if you're done wrong by whoever wins the race and they go to victory lane, it's like that's off limits. You're not allowed to go there. It just seems like that's the case. I don't know why really that doesn't seem. It seems like if you have an issue with the guy that won the race, you should be able to go out there and start whipping on him if you're so inclined. But yeah, and I don't think that this warranted throwing punches either. But I understand why Taylor Gray was upset.
Yeah.
And kind of a little bit of a disappointing move by Christian Eckes, but at the same point, you kind of expect that out of the Truck Series. So again, I'll set it up one more time. Final four for Phoenix is Grant Enfinger, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, and Corey Heim. Corey Heim, one of the best Truck Series drivers all year, and I think Eckes has really been up there the majority of the season as well, so definitely deserved to be there. Enfinger won his way in at Talladega, correct?
Yeah.
Well, he won before that.
No, he won two. He won at Talladega to guarantee it. Then he won at Vegas.
Okay.
Where was it? Vegas? No, Homestead. He won at Homestead, and then.
I was thinking he won twice to. Okay, I'm back on track now. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear from you who you think is going to win the Truck Series championship, but we'll address that down the road a little bit. Anything else from the Truck Series you wanted to cover? I feel like I'm moving pretty quick here through these lower two series, but there's a lot in the Cup race that I want to get to. The Xfinity Series, Eric Almirola ended up winning the race in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing again. He won it in the spring too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he ends up sweeping the Xfinity Series Martinsville races, and that sets up a final four for Phoenix in the Xfinity Series of Austin Hill, AJ Allmendinger, Cole Custer, and Justin Allgaier. Two normal guys that you would see in that setup: Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier. Austin Hill, I guess we didn't see him in it last year because him and Shelton Creed got together, and that was the whole issue with RCR. And AJ Allmendinger obviously winning his way in to that battle as well. I think that Cole Custer, just in my straight-up opinion, has a good opportunity to go back-to-back, I would think. You never count out Justin Allgaier except for the fact that he's Justin Allgaier and never wins anything, so that's the only reason why I would count him out. But yeah, we can get into those Final Four predictions a little bit more later on. There wasn't really anything... I did get a chance to watch the majority of the Xfinity Series race, and there wasn't anything that stuck out to me as being a monumental moment, but I thought it was a good race all the way through. I really enjoyed the racing that I got to see. Almirola was out front for a while, and for most of the race actually. And I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but why can't I think of his name? Drives the 81.
Chandler Smith.
Yeah, I get Chandler Smith and another driver mixed up all the time. I think I've told you this before.
I don't know.
But I can't remember who it is. Anyways, Chandler Smith, he ends up getting in a little bit of a skirmish with Cole Custer there. He needed to win the race to advance into the championship four. And he had a fast race car, had an opportunity to win, but just wasn't able to quite get it done. Him and Custer kind of battled back and forth a little bit for different positions. I don't know the full extent of what the complaint was because I wasn't watching the two of them that close as it kind of unfolded.
Well, for one, Chandler Smith really shoved Cole Custer out of the way to pass him. And then on the next restart they had, Cole Custer was the third to choose, I believe. So Almirola chose the inside, Chandler Smith chose the outside. Well, Custer would have normally chose the inside.
Right.
But he chose the outside instead.
Just to ship Christian. Chandler Smith, sorry.
Chandler Smith in turn one. That was pretty much what did it for Chandler.
So, obviously, Cole's whole position there was, you hit me, I'm going to... Kind of the old Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski argument is, you throw a rock, I'm going to throw a concrete block back at you.
Yeah.
And that's what Cole ended up doing in turn one to Chandler Smith. I'll tell you what, and they got out after the race and had a confrontation. I don't know really why Chandler would think it's a good idea to go down to Cole Custer, who is a big old boy, and say that, he's got some sort of issue with him and they're going to start... he did end up throwing a punch at him, but it's like, what would make you think you're going to win that fight? I mean, Chandler Smith's the size of my pinky finger, and Cole Custer is quite a bit bigger.
Yeah,
and,
I wouldn't call that a punch. I thought it was more of an open hand slap. It was like...
I don't know what he was going for. All I can tell you is this. I sure hope he can swing a hammer better than he can swing his right hand, because he is going to be working for his dad's construction company next year now that he didn't make it to the championship 4 race. Honestly, I think that Chandler Smith deserves to stick around. I think he's really proved himself as being a good race car driver. But temper tantrums like this, I'm not in favor of.
Yeah.
But that's a typical Joe Gibbs Racing driver also. You see that at Gibbs, Hendrick, guys like that. Again, to set up the Final Four for the Xfinity Series race in Phoenix, it's going to be Austin Hill, AJ Allmendinger, Cole Custer, and Justin Allgaier. Anything else that you wanted to cover from the Xfinity race?
No.
All right, let's get into the Cup race. This is what I've been looking for. I was telling you before we started recording, due to some family commitments that I had, I wasn't able to watch the first couple stages of the race too intently. I had it on my phone, but I wasn't able to listen to it. And I wondered what happened, and we'll get into the explanation of it, what happened to Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell at some point during the race, because they were up front and then they were in the back, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I was able to go back and watch the highlights that NASCAR puts on YouTube and kind of figure it out from there. But we were looking for tire wear in this race, and any time that we've heard all year, oh, we brought a soft tire compound this week, we're going to see some tire wear, it's pretty much always disappointed. And at Martinsville, it didn't. We had really good tire wear, I thought. Probably the best race that I've seen all year, that as far as tire wear went.
Yeah.
And you know the key way to tell that is when they're showing those front splitter cams, and you can see the rubbers build up on the camera lens, you know that you got some good tire wear there.
I mean, these cars look like they were on a dirt track because the sides of the cars were turning black from the rubber.
Exactly, so. Yes. I actually, because Ryan Blaney had the white paint scheme with the discount tire car, I actually thought he had scraped the wall at one point. Maybe he had, but it was just rubber that was going out that right front fender. That's awesome. I remember when Dale Jarrett had that white paint scheme of the UPS car, and they always had the cam on the roof for him. You could just see the rubber laying across the hood and the roof of that car, and it was like, yeah, this thing's eating some rubber off those tires. And it was nice to see them bring that back a little bit. Applaud Goodyear for that one. Tremendous job. That really was a huge difference in making this a good race. In my opinion. Now, I'll say it right now. I thought it was a great race.
Yeah.
Would you say, okay, let's divulge from this for a second. Last week at Homestead, this week at Martinsville, which one was better? That's tough.
I mean, I think what made Homestead more exciting was that finish.
True.
I mean, it was a good finish between Larson and Blaney there at the end anyways, fighting for this, but I just feel like maybe I had low expectations for Martinsville and it far exceeded what I did, but I felt like there was a lot more passing and moving ability than ever before, so I almost want to say this Martinsville race was a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're close. I think I'd probably still take the Martinsville race. That could be recency bias. I do agree with what you're saying. You expect some pretty good racing at Homestead, and we were not expecting great racing at Martinsville, and we got great racing at Martinsville. And all I can say is I'm thrilled that we had these two races back to back. It was great. And that is finally what NASCAR needs, is some good build up toward the championship race. But we do have some issues with how that's going to go down. I do anyways. I'm sure you do too. Yeah. And we'll take care of that here in a little bit too, getting in on that. Denny Hamlin had to start at the back of the field because he crashed in practice, obviously pretty frustrated with himself. He had a pretty good race, I thought, all day long. I didn't check to see where he ended up finishing. It was in the top 5, I believe. It was 5th. He had a good run and was up front for the majority of the day. He just didn't end up getting the win, which is really what he needed in order to advance. And once again, you're going to have a year where Denny Hamlin was a prominent player and doesn't make the championship 4, will not be a champion in 2024 after he was all in with the 11s, after it was their year. He called it on live TV and blah, 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 blah.
I felt like he was coerced into saying
you're
that.
Right.
Yeah, that was.
Wasn't it Boyer that coerced him into saying it?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember there was a coercion in that thing or whatever, and it didn't really seem so sincere. And he was like, yeah, okay.
But he'd said it on his podcast that he really did think that this was their year to win this championship, and it doesn't even make the Final Four. Look, I'm not a Denny Hamlin fan, and I wouldn't really say that I feel bad, but at the same point, like, I wouldn't have been disappointed seeing him in the Final Four. Actually, probably would have been pretty funny if he made the Final Four and finished second. That would have been awesome. But I don't know. I feel like he's definitely a driver that deserves to race for a championship, and Kyle Larson does too and didn't make it, and we can talk about that too. But yeah, he did almost everything as good as he could have done it. The only thing he didn't do was win the race. But to crash in practice, to come back and run as well as they did, to come all the way through the field and still get a top 5 finish, Denny had a great day. Chris Gabehart, those guys that just work on that 11 team really seemed to have a good race put together when they needed to, and didn't shoot themselves in the foot, and ended up making it as close as it possibly could be without actually getting in. So kudos to that team. Christopher Bell is a guy that just needed to not have a bad day in order to move on, and he did not have a good day. He started out bringing out the first yellow flag, and he ends up spinning pretty much as an unforced error. A lot of times at Martinsville, you can get hit in the back. You can have issues that way. Looked like he might have bounced off the curb and kind of chased it up the racetrack and bounced off Corey LaJoie, maybe, and ended up spinning his car around a little bit. But yeah, that was...
when you say Corey LaJoie, I still think the 7 car. I'm like, no, I don't think that. But yeah that was 51, whatever.
Yeah, he... but anyways, Bell, who just needed to have a quiet day, had a pretty loud one, and brought out the first incident. 2 guys that really needed to have a good day were Chase Elliott and William Byron, and they did. They ran the 9 and the 24 1 and 2. They kept them out front and ended up finishing 1-2 in the first stage. Ryan Blaney, after starting 14th, ended up coming through the field a little ways too to get himself up in position as well. How confident were you that Chase Elliott was going to end up having a pretty good day, pretty good race, and ultimately be in a position to win his way into the championship?
Looking at practice, I thought he had a pretty good shot, but that just being a Chase Elliott fan, I know something always comes up at the end of these races. He usually doesn't pull out, but and then I just thought the 24 was a little bit quicker than him. Other cars, I seen Blaney coming, so I just had a feeling, a couple cars were still quicker than him at that point.
Yeah. I don't know. You're right. I mean, it seemed like Elliott had something to run up near the front, but didn't quite have enough to compete with, especially Ryan Blaney. I mean, Blaney had the best car by far all day long. And then Chase obviously had the issues that he had on pit road, and that's something that, if you're close to, you might just be an adjustment away from being the best car on the racetrack. You cannot have pit road issues and have to go to the back of the field and drive your way through in order to make it back into a position to win again. And that's exactly what he ended up having to do. At the end of the second stage, 5 of the top 8 in points, those that were battling for the championship, were in the top 6 at the end of the second stage. Brad Keselowski getting the win. Christopher Bell had worked his way all the way back up to 6th after his spin. And obviously, Joey Logano was somebody that he ran better than I thought he was going to. But again, I figured this was going to be a throwaway race for him. Tyler Reddick, it definitely was. He ended up catching on fire and going to the garage. That was never a factor throughout the day. And obviously, with Chase Elliott having that issue on pit road, he was further back in the field there as well. So those were the 3 guys that weren't in that top 6 contention. But if it hadn't been for Brad Keselowski up there winning the stage, they would have been top 5, the guys that needed to get their way through onto the next round. As I said, Bell had worked his way up to 6th, but when he comes down pit road, they have issues as well, and ends up sending him towards the back. He'd eventually lose a lap and had to end up just fighting for his life the rest of the day. When he had a pretty good points cushion coming into the event, ended up just in a bad position at the end of the race. As we said, Elliott trying to work his way back through the field. The fact that we had the tire wear that we had is what made it possible for Chase to be in position to run a 2-stop strategy to the end of the race in order to take advantage of fresh tires. And Carson Hocevar spinning around is kind of what set up that position for him to make that second stop a little bit closer together than they were probably looking to on their strategy. But it still ended up working out for him. Where did he finish?
2nd.
Oh, he did? Okay, yeah. He finished 2nd in the race. So
when I first originally saw the strategy, I was just... First of all, I was hoping the cycle would come through because I was afraid, because he was, Martinsville, you go laps down on pit road. So that kind of, I was like, all right, everybody come on, cycle through. But I knew tire wear was a difference, but he was 10th when he pitted in the early in that cycle. And when everyone else finally cycled through, he was the leader. And I'm like, 10th at Martinsville after they already had I don't remember how long a run it was, but it was, I think he had to have been nearly half a lap down at that point, and man, I don't even quarter lap, but to make up that much time with those new tires on before everyone cycled through, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I did not see him coming out leading. I saw him maybe a few positions, but I didn't see him as the leader.
Yeah.
And that was.
It was going to work out really well for them.
Yeah.
And it did work out really well for him. I mean, he still ended up, like you said, finishing second. He was right up there near the lead. Just hard to compete with the best car on the day. And what was your level of disappointment after that? Like, did you feel that the 9 team gave what they had that day? It just came up a little short.
That's how I feel, yeah.
Not like you should have had it and it got away.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it just...
Yeah, it was the bases were loaded in the bottom of the ninth and you were losing and you were just swinging.
Yeah.
And see what you ended up getting. Obviously not the victory that Chase Elliott and the 9 team was looking for, but
once I saw the 12 car coming there on that last run, I'm like, yeah, he's winning this race. I didn't get my hopes up too
much. Before we kind of set up the finish of the race, and that's really what we want to talk about, with about 100 laps to go, I think it was that 77 spin, as they were getting ready to come back to green, Kyle Busch loses the right front tire. And it's rolling down the backstretch, and it goes rolling into turn 3, and NASCAR is ready to throw the green flag. And they do throw the green flag. And the positions change on the racetrack as the start-finish line being the scoring loop. And now all of a sudden the caution comes out before turn 1, and they got to stack them all back up again. How did NASCAR not see that tire?
I don't know.
I mean, Steve Letart's sitting there going, "Up, yep, the right front just came off the 8. We're not even gonna go green here. They're gonna call this caution off. We're gonna stay under caution. Up, okay, they're going green. Now we're under caution. It's like if Steve Letarte is telling you on TV for 30 seconds that there's a tire on the racetrack, how do you not see it if you're NASCAR?
Yeah.
And
that's the same thing. We go back to the Roval and Xfinity Series race with the car underneath the tire barrier.
Yeah. I mean, he was hiding. He was playing a little hide and seek with them. Yeah. But yeah, it's with all the cameras and all the technology that we should have, plus corner spotters and whatever else, they just every week NASCAR does something that's just like, what are you doing? Give you an adequate amount of people and officials out there to tell what's going on, and that was frustrating. Blaney was real hot on the radio, which is nothing new, about the fact that he lost a couple spots on that exchange and they should have waved it off entirely. From this point in the race, this is where things pretty much got interesting. You had some guys on old tires at the front of the field, and they were starting to fall. That was the 24 and the 5. They were starting. Well, was 5 on older tires? 24 definitely was.
Yeah, the 5 was. Yeah,
and 5 was too. Blaney hit him pretty hard, sent him up the racetrack, kind of door slammed him a little bit to get by him. I think that was fair or foul there because Blaney was coming. He was faster than the 5. You think he should have been a little more patient with him?
Maybe just a little bit. I mean, then I don't know if it was exaggerated by Blaney getting up on the curb, because he was he was racing on the curb.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like he hit it and bounced off. So I don't know if it was anything like that. But other than that, I don't know if it was anything too egregious.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was as somebody that was rooting for Ryan Blaney, it's like, dude, calm down a little bit. Just take it easy. You got the best car. He's on older tires. You can still catch the 9. Relax. You got plenty of time here. And ultimately, that is how it worked out. But he went blowing by the 5 once he got by him, and then was able to track down the 9 and pass him as well. And then from there, it was pretty much just as long as the caution doesn't come out, Blaney's going to win this race.
Yeah.
And should have won the race, had the best car. TJ Majors called it all week on 2 different podcasts he was on, said that, yeah, Blaney's going to win this race. I watched him for 3 hours here last year. He knows how to run that curb, and he did exactly that. That's why I picked him this week, because I just felt like he needed to win. He was really good at Martinsville. He should win the race, and he did.
If you wouldn't have picked him, I'd have picked him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then at this particular point, you've got Christopher Bell, who's a lap down. He's trying to stay the first car lap down to make up as many positions as possible. So now he's running in a position where he is the best that he can be. And he's out by a handful of points. And William Byron is in, who's running in the top 5. And Byron on those old tires is starting to lose spots one at a time. He got passed by Blaney. He got passed by some other cars. And now we're getting down to the very end of the race, and you've got the one of Ross Chastain. Who was the other one?
Austin Dillon.
Austin Dillon, who had a really good day.
Yeah.
Was running behind him. and they're running the bottom and the second lane up. And what they're effectively doing is creating a roadblock behind the 24 so that nobody else can pass them. Now, when I first saw that, I was like, Chastain's not going to worry about any team orders. He's just trying to go. Austin Dillon probably will. He's a company man for RCR, and I'm sure he's in Chevrolet's pocket as well. And I really didn't think that Chastain was going to do that. And then when I saw them running lap after lap after lap, side by side, and they're starting to stack up behind all three of them, it's like, this is organized now. They are intentionally doing this, and I wasn't thinking like this is race manipulation, this is wrong, but it was definitely a strategy to get the 24 to advance to the next round, because he was 1 point to the good at that point.
Yeah.
So now the other side of this coin is that Bell, who can't advance a position, needs one more lap car. Well, the guy that got lapped was Bubba Wallace. And when they tell Bubba Wallace over the radio, hey, the 20 needs a point, he says, copy that, got a tire going down. And he obviously didn't have a tire going down.
Yeah.
And he just starts backing his way up through the field. And eventually, in the final set of corners, gets passed by the 20, who, as he's trying a desperate move to dive bomb the 23 to gain that one more position, ends up slapping the wall. And instead of just, having to literally stop to turn the car through the corner, decides to just throttle it up and ride the wall out of the corner, which is, at any other racetrack, not a problem, really. And because of the Ross Chastain move, that has been outlawed, and that comes into play after the race is over. When I'm watching this, all I'm seeing, in my mind, I'm thinking two things. One, as a Joey Logano fan, I don't want Christopher Bell going to Phoenix, because Christopher Bell could win the race and win the championship in Phoenix. The cynical part of me doesn't want any Hendrick cars in this thing. And I think it would be awesome if we can get through this round and have 0 Hendrick cars in the championship 4. And so I'm watching the 24 going, these lousy jerks. They're going to go ahead and set that block for him, and he's going to go ahead and get in because of that. I never even saw the Christopher Bell thing happen because they had the 3-screen box there on the TV. All I was watching was the 24 car, the 1 and the 3. And when I saw him cross the start-finish line, I was like, okay, whatever. And then Lee Diffie says that Bell's in because he ended up getting by Bubba in the final turn. And I'm like, what? And then I saw that move, and he said it was Chastain-esque. And I never even gave it a thought until he said it was Chastain-esque. And I'm like, they might penalize him for that.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously a rule. And then I thought, well, there's no way they're going to disqualify him because there was race manipulation on both sides, if that's what you want to argue. So I guess my question is, do you think that either incident was fair or foul? The 2 cars running a block for their Chevrolet teammate, not even their Hendrick Motorsports teammate. Do you think it was foul for the 23 to be dropping through the field? And what do you think? Do you think NASCAR made the right call?
Yeah, it's a tricky answer to all of this. And first of all, I don't believe NASCAR is done making calls, because I believe there was a tweet put out by NASCAR that they're still investigating all the scenarios that went on. So who knows? Maybe they'll change the Final Four. I doubt they might go that extreme, but maybe those who were otherwise involved might get some type of penalty. But as a Hendrick Motorsports fan, I was rooting for Byron there. I mean, I was rooting for Elliott, of course, but if he couldn't make it, at least one of the Hendrick cars in there. But it made me sick to my stomach a little bit to how he was going to make it in, because on speed he shouldn't have made it in. But then, with the 23 giving up to the 20, I was watching the 23 because I knew he went a lap down. I'm like, oh, there's a Toyota right there for him, So once that happened, it just the whole scenario was like, now both of these drivers to me feel tainted being in the Final Four. But it also feels weird that if you penalize both of them, a Hendrick driver still gets in, and the Chevy blockade still worked out for him. So I feel like this is a whole lose-lose situation all around anymore. So I believe the wall ride, Bell claims that he got loose and hit the wall, which I can agree with. He drove in to try and beat Bubba. It looked like I thought he was pointed off the wall, and then he just hammered down and chugged on, And to me, that was wall riding. So to me, that had to be penalized, and I think he only lost a few spots technically. He just put him on the last car on his lap.
He lost 4 spots total, I think.
Yeah, 4. But the other parts of it, something needs to be done. I don't know if I have the answer. I feel like the situation that happened, I think the call is right for what they did, or what the call they made. It still feels wrong, but I feel like everything else they could have done would be wrong too. So it almost feels like I hope Byron at this point doesn't win the championship, because it would be kind of a tainted championship.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think when you look at the drivers that are out with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, the most winning driver of the season, Chase Elliott, and Christopher Bell. I mean, those guys, that could be the championship for, and you'd feel pretty good about that, as far as those being some of the better drivers all year, being the ones racing for a championship. I guess my opinion on the whole thing is I don't like Chevy teammates working together. If that was 2 Hendrick cars running interference for him, I'd be like, whatever. I would almost expect that.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that they're aligned through a manufacturer. They don't do anything to help each other out. I'm sure there's some technical alliance here and there. Whatever. Like, this is your competitor, and you're running a blockade for them. That is dumb. I don't like that.
So, Denny Hamlin, I listened to his podcast, made a point that I have never heard before, but there's a Chevy collaboration in Charlotte. It's like a Team Chevy group or something that all the Chevy teams that have an alliance go through. Evidently, Hendrick runs that.
Shocking.
So essentially, or Hendrick is a big part of that or something. So a lot of the information that Chevy gets to send out to all their Tier 1 Chevy teams
goes through Hendrick Motorsports. That sounds right.
So, Hendrick gives Chevy the information. So technically all the Chevy teams get Hendrick information. So I did not know that. So
that sounds right.
So did that make you feel a little different about how the...
No.
I understand.
It makes me feel worse. Yeah. I guess the bottom line that my point here is, I don't like what those two did, but if it were 2 Hendrick cars, I would be like, whatever, almost expect that. What I don't like is, I would argue that the 23 is more related to the 20 than the 1 and the 3 are related to the 24.
Yeah.
And I guess what I don't like is the 23 falling through the field to give away a position.
Yeah.
If he was right in front of him and he said, hey, I got a tire going down, and he gave up the spot, whatever. Like, I get that. But to have to be basically in reverse through the Martinsville traffic, I don't like that. That's a safety issue to me.
Well, they were 4 wide with him there, that final corner when
yeah.
Well, it was Chastain, 7 car of Haley, because he was laps down too. Well, it was just a mess there at the final corner there. I was surprised they didn't wreck each other there. So
yeah, I don't like those situations where you got a driver falling through the field trying to give away a spot. Have less of an issue with 2 guys just running interference like that, because the 6 could have just shipped them both.
Yeah,
and he had that opportunity and didn't take it. I don't know. I guess I don't like either one. I think that what Bubba Wallace did was more egregious, and I don't think that it's like, I don't blame Bubba Wallace for it.
Yeah.
I like it what he did less than I like the other 2 did. But at the same point, I think you either penalize them both or you penalize nobody.
Yeah.
And the wall riding thing, just to me, it looked like Bell wanted to just make sure he got by the 23, and he just drove it into 3 as hard as he could to try to clear him, made contact with the 23, hit the wall, and just needed to ensure that he didn't lose any spots and laid on the throttle. I don't think he was intending to go in there to ride the wall out of the corner.
No, I don't believe that. But
I think when he found himself there, it was like, this is my opportunity to just go. I just need to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's all he was shooting for there.
But if you don't penalize that, then everyone else is going to try some form of that in the future too, possibly.
But it's not like he couldn't gain a position doing that unless he literally took out the... Yeah. Like, you had to have bombed the car in front of you to get it. Yeah. And if those other cars on the racetrack he was racing for position, he would have lost more spots than he did that way.
Yeah.
So, like, there was no advantage to him other than the fact that he just needed to get by the 23. That was his whole point there. So I get what everybody's saying, that that they outlawed it, you got to uphold the rule, and I get all that, but it's like, he had no intent of doing that going into the corner whatsoever.
I don't think he had to drive in as hard as he did either to pass the 23. So.
I think that he could have ran his normal line, and the 23 would have parked in 4 before he ever... I don't think the 23 was making it back to the start-finish line in front of the 20 no matter what. And I just don't understand why that was the thing that we made this decision on. He hit the wall, and the right side of his car laid against the wall off of turn 4. He did not do what Ross Chastain did, where he never touched the brakes. And I don't know. No matter what NASCAR does, it's wrong. It seems like, and it doesn't. And I don't say that from a place of like, it doesn't seem like NASCAR can win with their fans. I say it from anything that could possibly be the right thing to do. NASCAR will do the opposite of that every single time, and either penalize them both, disqualify them both for manipulating the race, and put the 5 in, which I still don't like. But he deserves to be there more than either one of the other two if you're gonna make that call. Or say nothing happens, the 20 makes it, moving on. No matter what, the 24 should not be in this.
Right.
So that's, as a whole, I would say that that's my take on that situation. Elton Sawyer, I have his diecast sitting back here because he ran a North Carolina Tar Heels car. I think he's a good guy. Probably would get along with him in person. He's just NASCAR's whipping boy. It's like, hey, we messed up. You got to go talk to him now. And every time I see Elton trot out there, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. We got to hear from this guy again. And again, it's nothing against Elton Sawyer. It's just like, he is going to come up. He's going to give you the dumbest answers for the establishment of NASCAR this whole time. And you just get tired of listening to it after a while because it's like, well, we wanted to make sure we got it right. Well, you did the exact opposite of that. No matter what you did, you got it wrong. And I think somebody tweeted the stat that it's 30% of the races this year we've heard from Elton Sawyer afterwards due to some controversy. It's like, that's just way too many. 1/3 of your races this year have ended in controversy, and you've got your spokesperson out there for you. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. I think that pretty much covers the end of the race from at least my perspective.
Yeah.
Blaney won. He was very pumped up. I thought the quote that Dave Blaney gave him was awesome when he said that after he got passed on turn 4 at Homestead, Dave Blaney told him that the path is a little muddier now, but that's why they make cleats. And he had to go out there and win the race, and he did. And I don't know. I think, unfortunately, that gets a little bit too lost in this whole controversy issue with the other cars. But Ryan Blaney did exactly what he needed to do to advance, and it was awesome. I thought he drove a great race.
Yeah, I mean, other than hoping Chase Elliott would have had a faster car passing the 5, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's what he has at Martinsville that others don't, but it's almost wonder if he's going to become like the Jeff Gordon-esque with Martinsville or whatever. Gordon dominated all the time. Other than I think Waltrip or something there had domination stuff there in the past. You'll get these guys like Jimmy Johnson, yeah,
Denny Hamlin.
So. I mean, Blaney's going to seem to be like this next guy at Martinsville.
And I think Byron could be somebody that's in that position as well.
Yeah.
Not that he's got a little more work to do to be somebody that wins all the time, but he's always a name that you think of when you go to Martinsville.
Yeah.
And for the majority of the race, I mean, the Hendrick cars looked like they were in a very good position all day long with Elliott, Larson, and Byron all together. But yeah, I thought it was a great Martinsville race. We got a great winner. The championship 4 is now Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and potentially William Byron. We'll see how the week goes.
What did you think about Blaney shipping SVG into Byron?
Yeah, I didn't think that was necessary either.
Yeah,
I don't know what Ryan Blaney was just under a big sense of urgency yesterday to get to the front, lead the laps, win the race.
Yeah.
And the same thing as the Kyle Larson deal, just wasn't necessary. I wouldn't try to defend that move for being a Ryan Blaney fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't seem like that was necessary at all. It should have just been a little more patient there, in my opinion. Anything else you want to cover off of from the cup race?
I don't got nothing more than that.
I don't either. Very happy with the race. Very much looking forward to seeing highlights of this one for a while to come yet, and curious to see what's going to happen to the drivers and what NASCAR rules on during the week. And I am looking forward to Phoenix to see Joey Logano win his third championship. Obviously, I want to see Joey Logano win the championship. I want to see Ryan Blaney win the championship if Joey doesn't. Tyler Reddick winning the championship would be the coolest story of the weekend for the sport of NASCAR.
Yeah.
And the worst thing would be William Byron winning for everybody. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Hopefully, I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm hoping that we have an opportunity to do a championship preview race toward the end of the week and kind of give a little more information on what else happened this week and preview that race at Phoenix a little bit. But as always, I'm pulling for the 22 car and Team Penske, and I'm sure that you're pulling for the 24. And well, if we don't see you before Phoenix, we'll see you afterwards in order to recap the final race of the year, the championship in Phoenix.